Oop.
Aye.
Uh-oh.
See, we gotta get back into the normal routine.
If I talk, will it be fine? Okay. Good afternoon. It is Tuesday, July 1st, 2025. It is 4:00 and this is a regular business meeting of the Jefferson Public Utility District Board of Commissioners. My name is Jeff Randall. I am president of the board and I'm calling the meeting to order. Jefferson PUD will be offering both virtual online meetings as well as in-person meetings unless advance notice is provided. Online participant audio will be muted upon entry. Please unmute at the appropriate time to speak. And if you're calling in, use *6 to mute and unmute and *9 to raise a hand to request to speak. Let's do a roll call of commissioners. My name is Jeff Randall, president of the board and commissioner for District 1.
Kenneth Collins, Commissioner, District 2.
Dan Tupper, Commissioner for District 3.
Okay, any changes to the agenda? Seeing none.
I'll make the motion to accept the agenda as presented.
Second.
All in favor of approving the agenda, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Aye. Okay. Public comment. Public comment period allows members of the public to comment, limited to 3 minutes each, on any items not specifically listed on the agenda or for items listed on the consent agenda. Prior to any public comment, members of the public must first be recognized by the president and are not permitted to disrupt, disturb, or otherwise impede the orderly conduct and fair progress of the commission's meeting after initial warning by the president. Individuals who intentionally violate these guidelines through actual disruption of the commission meeting will be dropped from the meeting. Would anybody like to make a comment on items on the consent agenda or not on the agenda at all? Yep.
Got a list here.
Okay.
All right, so a while back, I asked for a rate study. And I've been told a couple of times by the commissioners that it's gonna get looked into, but we're done. I'm not sure, whatever. But
I'm sorry to interrupt. Just a clarification. I won't charge you for time. This is on the broadband rates,
Yeah.
correct? Okay, thank you
Right.
for the clarification.
I don't think the wholesale side of things should be subsidizing the retail side. There's been some issues with trying to negotiate this aggregation and point-to-point circuits that we have that are coming up, and the rates are changing on us come the 1st of January, and nobody is responding to any of my requests to try and work things out. And last minute is not the time to do this. Normally you would work about 6 months ahead of time to try and figure out what you're gonna do. You're gonna move things, get things situated. The other providers, let's see here, back in May, I reported a problem with NoaNet on one of our circuits that we had on standby. Still has not been resolved to date. NoaNet says that PUD reports that they unplugged it. And refusing to plug it back in. So we never requested to be disconnected with NoaNet. NoaNet has no record of us requesting it to be disconnected, and apparently PUD is refusing to fix it. All right, so let's see here. Lack of support, once again, reported an issue at 3:30 in the afternoon for a customer. No response, called in multiple times, left voicemails, sent emails, finally left a voicemail on Will O'Donnell's phone, who responded at 5:00 that evening that Curtis was looking into it, and that if it was a customer equipment issue, that I would be charged for it. Which is, we tried to get a hold of somebody during normal business hours. You guys responded after hours. It's not our fault. Tried to get a customer hibernated because she was going on vacation. We were told they were going to charge $15 a month, and if they didn't return the equipment, or we could have it disconnected. But if the equipment wasn't returned, the PUD was going to charge me $150 for the equipment. Well, I have no control over that equipment. That's in somebody's house, which you guys installed. And we've told you multiple times, and others have as well, as if you install stuff in people's house, do not expect it back. Because they're gonna move, they're gonna disconnect and go somewhere. You're not gonna get it back. A lot of this stuff, and some people will, but
You got about 30 seconds.
Yep, and then take rate, what is a take rate? The take rate just mean that somebody has actually gone through and say, hey, I want service to my house. Because I'm seeing a lot of people that are actually, you guys are spending millions of dollars to run drops to people's houses with no commitment to service and have at this point not signed up. So you're spending millions of dollars, which is not the norm, to run fiber to people's houses before they've actually committed to taking service. So, I mean, you're literally losing millions of dollars that you could use
Okay, wrap it up, please.
to provide service to other people.
Okay. I have a question for you, Leo, and normally what we do is turn to staff, say, staff, during your report, if you could respond to any of those that you feel you can. But I do have a question. You brought up the rate study on broadband rates. That's been brought up before, and I think staff can address that. You know, the point-to-point issue that's in our rates. We're familiar with that. The one issue you brought up was this issue of regarding NOAANet and some equipment being unplugged. Have you communicated in writing or verbally with staff about that one, or is this the first time you?
Well, that circuit is between me and NOAANet, and then between you and NOAANet. So
I guess I'm not asking for more explanation. I'm just asking, have you communicated with staff about that in some way or form, or is this the first time?
no, because I'm not the customer of record. So I can't communicate with your staff.
Okay.
NOAANet's the customer.
Okay, that's probably as much as I can understand. Thank you for that. All right, do we have other public comments for items not on the agenda or on consent? Going once, going twice, seeing none. Okay, manager and staff reports, including any responses on any of those things.
With Leo's, I don't think we'll have any response. As been stated before, you know, we've done some rate studies in the past with people. We are having FCS look at our rate study, but we're doing metric first, which is done, and we're gonna go to water and sewer and broadband. So it's part of the process.
Well, and just sharing what I've heard about rate studies on broadband, and this came up at NOAANet. Either just talking to Angela, who's the Bennick, who's the Kitsap PUD general manager, either on the side or in the meeting. The comment that was made was, and please don't get into a discussion, I'm just sharing some information. The comment that was made was there's not enough utilities doing the same kind of service to do an effective rate study. So at least how they are traditionally done. But anyway, please continue. And that's not a final statement. That's just a statement of one general manager who's a broadband person.
Doug Dawson is helped us in the past, you know, with our rates and stuff. The NOAANet circuit, we are aware. I'm not sure how it's gonna end up, but Leo's right. It's NOAANet and Leo's issue.
Okay, could you say a little bit more on that if we know anything more on that?
Not sure I should.
Okay, understood.
There's, yeah, I've just gotta stop there.
So if you're Leo for a second, and what I'm hearing is the relationship is between the PUD and NOAANet, but we have an ISP that's affected. I guess if I was the ISP, I'd be asking, well, who do I talk to find out what's happening?
Leo can talk to us and we can share some of the information we have.
Okay, and who would be us? Who would be the one person he should talk to then?
Probably start with Will, and then Will would.
Okay. All right. Please, sorry to interrupt, but please continue.
The take rate, we're in all of our areas oversubscribed to take rate. So take rate per our definition is people who are going to take our service. And that's in a nutshell what our definition is. So
there were two other issues I heard. You don't have to respond, but one was, so we adopted we adopted new broadband rates, and one of them was the big change to the point-to-point. And I can't remember, when is the implementation date that goes into effect?
That went into effect the day after we passed it.
But
It doesn't go into effect for existing customers until the end, January 1st, 2026.
Okay. And I didn't quite understand what you were saying. And again, I don't want to get into back and forth. And in some ways, this is probably dealt with better outside this room. I guess I'm happy to talk to you after this to try and understand better. And then lastly, the issue of we were called about the customer of Leo's that was having an issue. And one of our responses was, if we go there and it's not our equipment, it's the customer's equipment, we're going to have to charge somebody for us rolling a truck because it's not our issue. And we have the same issue with electrical service. If we're
Correct.
called out and they're saying, hey, we've got a problem, it's your stuff. And we go there, no, it's their panel. We are going to charge them. So I think that's what's being stated. And I understand.
That is our policy.
Okay. So again, happy to talk more outside of this. Briefly, please.
But it wasn't even rolling a truck. It was just the fact that Curtis was looking at it and it was 5 o'clock.
Okay. Please, I don't want to have any more discussion. I'm happy to talk more about it afterwards and find out. Okay. We need to run the meeting and keep going. Okay, please continue with manager and staff reports.
Real quick, we have a couple things. We were gonna start doing tree work at, off Sims Way for the boatyard expansion. Last week, the port called and asked us to postpone a little bit. And the reasoning behind it is, how we had it laid out is we were gonna cut the trees and then do the conduit work, and then they were gonna come in and do their dirt work and expansion.
And sorry, just so we understand that more. So the timing, and I'm sure that again, there's another forum where we could hear more about this, but the trees are going to be cut. Then is there going to trench going to be built, or is it going to be one of those tunneling things,
No,
or
trench would be built, so
open trench?
trees comes down.
And we're going to do that. Or
Open
we're-
trench.
We're going to have a contractor do it.
Contract
Okay.
Open trench, and then the port was gonna start their expansion project.
Okay.
It made sense when the port requested to tie everything a little closer together so that people would see a lot of work done in a quicker.
The disruption would be tightened up
Tightened
from
up.
beginning to end.
Yep.
Okay. That makes
So,
sense.
when they requested, it seemed like a very logical thing to do. We've agreed. We're not sure of dates and everything, how they're gonna line up, but, we did have plans to cut the trees in July. That'll probably be postponed maybe 6 weeks, depending on how once, everyone sits down and can put a timeline together on when certain things can be bid and the work that needs to be done.
And then, so just again, walking through it, trees cut, trenching, conduit, stuff put back in trench, covered up. What happens after, and then the port's going to expand and move their fence and ballast and all that stuff. What's going to happen in the right of way adjacent to the road, and who's going to do it? Is the city going to put new street trees in the path? Is the port going to do it? What's going to happen?
That's, the pathway is part of the ports project.
Okay. And any replacement trees? Do you know anything about that?
I do, but I can't tell you what kind of tree.
No, I'm not asking that. I'm just,
They have a very good plan to go in. They're gonna put in as mature trees as they
Sure.
can, you know.
so that's going to happen at the end too.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Jeff, we've talked about this a little bit. If you guys remember, we did Water Street here several years ago. And that was one of the people's issues in Port Townsend is we're taking these big, beautiful trees down and putting these small, kind of skimpy looking trees. If you go downtown Port Townsend now, those trees have matured. They're very pretty trees. They're not in the power line. You know, it worked out really well there. And that's how I see this project going along. The trees in a couple of years will be great trees and they'll look really nice throughout that stretch.
Okay. Thank you. Please continue.
We sent off for a rebuild transformer, the one that failed in Quilcene. That has come back. It's sitting in the Port Ledlow substation. It's sitting there now. We have to do some work on it to make it so we can energize it, but that transformer is back. And so we're back to having a spare now if we do have a failure. And then last thing real quick, Dana Roberts upgrade. We're reviewing, getting ready for contracts to go out on that.
And that's the relocation of the Discovery Bay transformer, and then a different
Hey,
one
Roberts.
is going to Discovery Bay.
The one is in Discovery Bay now. It came out of Quilcene. The new one we purchased is energized and working well in Quilcene. The Discovery Bay transformer, we'll schedule an outage here mid to late summer. Set the small one in place and move the old one to
Dana
Dana
Roberts. Okay.
And once the drawings are finished, we'll have a bid package. It'll come to the board for approval. It'll be several $1,000,000. And so we're behind schedule a little bit, but the drawings are coming together finally, so we're pleased with that.
And the goal is to have that energized hopefully before the winter loads.
And we feel
Come on.
comfortable we'll have it ready for winter. load.
Okay.
It'll
Thank
be
you.
close. And that's it.
Okay.
Oh, Navy grant?
Yep.
Want me to? Yeah, okay. I just want to let the commissioners know that we're applying for, we've applied for this before in partnership with the Navy, Departments of Defense funds to put in a second bay at the Chimicum substation and an underground dedicated feeder to the Indian Island and Marrowstone.
Wow.
So we have a new path now. Kevin and team was able to locate an undersea water line that goes over to the base. So we'd be adjusting our pre-existing path, putting it through that undersea water line. So we wouldn't be dependent on the bridge for the crossing if there's
Wow.
any issue with the bridge. So that's a $13.5 million project. The Department of Defense grant will cover all of it. They've been highly competitive. We have never ranked very highly. We've always been down pretty low. But the Navy and Indian Island staff this year have some extra mojo, we'll call it, and they're going to put in a letter on the backside that should raise our score quite a bit.
Okay.
So it's a priority project. So
All right.
we've sent out for letters of support from local Congress folks and the county commissioners. I just wanted to keep you guys in the loop.
Yeah. Thanks for the update on the infrastructure. That's interesting. Okay. All done with staff. Okay. Commissioner reports. And this is one where we skipped last time. So we're going back to early June, I guess, in terms of reports. Who wants to go first? Dan?
Sure.
Okay.
And as it turns out, I don't have a lot of my agendas and stuff in those, so I'm going to go off of my planner. So you will be the benefit of not quite as much in-depth reporting this time.
Okay.
So actually, I attended, excuse me, PPC, Public Power Council, on the 4th and 5th of June. I went to the Brennan Public Task Force meeting on Friday, the 6th of June, and that discussion there is again continuing on about the floodplain issues they have and the sewer issues in that area for that city core down there. So we do have some interest and involvement in following those discussions. Met with Kevin Street on June 9th. I listened in on, excuse me, the majority of the NOAANET meeting on the 11th. I attended the PPC Fuel, which is the Forum for Utility Elected Leaders meeting on, excuse me, on June 12th. And I talked about a little bit the last time we met about, I actually took the hydrofoil ferry, electric ferry thing that the port did. So that was kind of fun, kind of interesting.
They had a nice article of that in the paper.
Yeah, they
too,
did.
which kind of showed what it looked like. It wasn't as high up out of the water as I
Yeah.
thought, but it's not that big of a boat.
And they have
either.
like 3 different types of boats that they use. This was like a 12-person version. They have one that's a little smaller and one that's a little bigger, I believe. Again, let's see where we at. I attended the Waputa visit of the executive committee. We went to Ferry PUD and went to one of their board meetings and talked with them a little bit about them being in the association and if there's anything we could do further to help or inform them. That was on the 16th of June. Obviously, we had our board meeting on the 17th. What else did I have going here? Met with Kevin Street on the 20th. What else do we have moving forward here? I attended the virtual WAPAG meeting, which is the Western Public Agencies Group, via Zoom on the 25th, and the discussion there was about BPA and what is going to happen with the, I can't think of what it is now. The money that we give to the IOUs or the.
Oh, yeah.
I can't think of the term now. I don't
I
have.
can't-
Presidential exchange.
There you go. Thank
There
you.
you go, Joel.
Thank you, Joel.
Good one.
Like I said, I'm still half fried here, so from a long weekend. And not having my notes or agendas in front of me. I attended a Waputa Zoom call with the executive committee. And this one, again, I will give you a little bit of information. This is around a survey that's been contracted by the association on the building and assess that for a plan moving forward on how the association will maintain the building, how we will fund those kind of things.
Mhm.
And so there will be, at the July meeting, there will be a discussion and a proposal brought forward. So there, that's something that'll be at the, when we're in Skagit for the July meeting, that's on the agenda. So,
Okay.
and again, without my notes, I don't want to say any more than that because I could be getting more than one option and getting one of them wrong. So we'll skip that. Let's see. And then on the 28th, the 29th, and the 30th of June, I attended the board's executive sessions to review applicants for the general manager position at this utility. And that's pretty much the places I've gone and the things I've listened to. I did get one message on the phone. I know I got others, but I did get one last night from Mitch at Advanced Stream. I didn't catch it and wasn't able to get back to him yesterday. I left him a voicemail and an email, but he hasn't responded back to me. I don't know if you guys got that same one or not.
Not that I'm
So,
aware of.
anyhow, I just want to let Mitch know for the record that I did try to get back to him.
Okay.
I wasn't unable to make that connection, no puns intended yet. With that, I am going, let's see, I do have, where are we going here this coming week? What do I have? I don't have much on on my travel plans. We have the executive session on the 3rd, is that tentative?
It's kind of an if needed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I meet with Kevin Street on the 7th of July. Excuse me. And what else? Waputa Executive Board. I think that's it.
Okay. Ken?
So on the 4th, I attended the executive committee of PERMS. That's the Public Utility Risk Management Service. They provide insurance for us. And attended their board meeting in person in Seattle on the 5th. Had a meeting with the general manager on the 9th. Meeting with Joel Paisner, legal counsel, on the 13th. Meeting with the general manager on the 17th. Attended I guess a celebratory dinner for Don McDaniel.
Yeah.
Thank him for his years of service.
Mm-hmm.
That was on the 19th. Attended, there was a special board meeting briefly on the 23rd. Went up to sign a document on the 26th. That was for the RUS loan.
Mm-hmm.
Then also participated in the marathon interviews,
Mm-hmm.
the 28th, 29th, and 30th. Talked this morning with the general manager. I have on my calendar the special board meeting on the 3rd. Anticipate talking to the general manager on the 7th. I had on my calendar, Kevin, the 8th for a meeting with the Navy. Is that no?
Not happening.
All right. And then you and I will talk again on the 14th, and that's my.
Okay. Mine's a little longer. On the 5th of June, we had our first EDC board meeting with our new executive director, David Balliff. It went really well. And some things that came out of that is we learned that Cindy Brooks has agreed to stay on for 2.5 additional weeks to help David transition and get off to a good start. And the board approved that. And that was, of course, back in the first week of June. So that time period may be up. But anyway, that was to help him and help the staff. Looking ahead, we anticipate reviewing that multi-party agreement that's kind of under the ICG as well as affects the EDC. And David will be involved in that. So the board of the EDC will be looking at that. And I think all the four partners will be talking and looking at that too. For the coming year, the state commerce budget that supports the EDC in the past to the tune of around $80,000 a year is being reduced. And it wasn't clear to me how much of a reduction, but it was significant. And they were anticipating starting their bank balance for the coming budget year, which is a June to June or June to July budget with about 200,000 in the bank, which doesn't sound like much, but for them, that was pretty good based on where they used to be at. And there is some interest in seeing if the EDC can be involved in resurrecting kind of the purpose and functions that the Chamber of Commerce used to have. So there was some discussion about that. I don't think anything's going to happen fast on that, but that was talked about. Dan mentioned the NOAANET board meeting a little bit. That was pretty, some good stuff was done. They gave a report on an employee survey that was done of NOAANET employees, and overall they got good feedback where the employees were pretty happy. Not everybody's happy everywhere, but they got some good feedback that they're going to be able to use. Mason PUD gave their focus member report, and one of the things they announced was that they're switching to a PON network. They're using a Nokia product, and they said switching to PON's not easy. It'll take years. So that was an interesting quote. They have about 800 plus miles of fiber, 4,000 gateways, blah, blah, blah. And, but that was interesting. Fortunately, we decided to roll ours out with PON. So they said that switchover is not easy. Let's see. We had a presentation by another potential new member of NOAANET. So we had the first one was the Colville Tribes business line. It's called Bigfoot that does broadband, but it's going to be wireless broadband for the most part. And this is an organization from Spokane called Broadlink. And Broadlink is another one of these, what was the formal name of it? It's a public development authority, but it's been around since 2022. It's been successful. And they talked about joining NOAANET and saw some reasons to do so. And I'm not going to get into the details of who they are and what they are doing.
Are they under the city of Spokane in some way?
As a PDA, well, they were formed by Spokane County in this case. City of Port Townsend formed the PDA here, but that was formed by Spokane County. And they would be another fully integrated member, and the board members were very positive on that one. We did talk about Bigfoot a little bit, and there's a few people that are concerned about tribes coming in as members. They just have some questions that have to be answered, like tribal authority and what laws would any disputes be addressed under. But it seemed like all those discussions about bringing new fully integrated members on board are positive, and it helps us because it provides more revenue to NOAANET, takes the pressure off of us in terms of a little bit of the pressure on, gee, you're not buying enough stuff from NOAANET. So anyway, I think it's a good direction. There was some discussion about bead. We got a retail update, not a lot new. NOAANET's going slow, and Chelan and Douglas is dipping their toe in the waters, but it's very, very slow. And they call it a pilot project. And Mason, when they talked about their retail, basically they're only offering it to Mason PUD employees. This is Mason 3, I think.
Yes.
And ex PUD employees. So they're doing it, but they're not, they're just making it really limited to try and work the bugs out. There's going to be there are proposed bylaw changes. I'll try to, let's see, mainly, this is Ryan Espegard, the attorney for NOAANET. Basically, the goal of the bylaw changes is to make it easier for new members to join. Mm-hmm. Currently, to be a member, you have to be an electric utility, and neither Bigfoot or Broadlink or some of the others are talking to, some of them aren't electric utilities. Ryan looked into where did this come from? And it doesn't come from BPA agreements, doesn't come from anywhere else. It's just from NOAANET's bylaws. So it appears that they can amend the bylaws to allow new members to come in. Kevin?
This is an odd question, but I gotta ask it.
Yeah.
Kitsap isn't an electric utility. So
What the heck?
I've heard that before, that you had to be electric utility.
Yeah.
But I don't, does anyone know the background? there?
I don't know, but we're going to try and fix it. So it's proper going forward. So that's going to be looked at in August. I said I would pass it on to you gentlemen, so you would have a chance to review it too. And I need to look for Ryan's email and forward that on, so you can see if there's any issues that you have. And I think they're hoping that the board will be authorized to approve the bylaw changes.
Strictly a language change, is that what that?
Well, yeah, there wasn't anything else about some of these other issues we talked about is there any minimum buy, increases in annual fees, or what are some of the other things? It was like a secret oath, or, none of that stuff is in there. It's really all just about allowing more new members to join NOAA. That's the focus. Yeah, I was at all the meetings that you guys both mentioned. On the 20th, I met with Nicole Gautier, the Jefferson Transit manager, and got a really nice tour of the infrastructure they've installed to allow charging of their vehicles, and saw the little plate that's in the parking lot or could be in a street that allows induction. And they explained to me they have cameras underneath the bus, and they've got to be like right on that thing. And it's about, 3 feet by 3 feet or 2.5 feet by 2.5, something like that. And they've got to be right on it. And then the bus, the whole thing lowers down to get close enough to charge. It is not a simple thing. So people think, oh yeah, they just put one in at a bus stop and you'll just drive over it and charge. No, it's like, tighter than landing on an aircraft carrier. It's like, you got to be right on it. So they're learning about that. And they were very appreciative of the PUD, and Jimmy really helped with some of the control equipment designs when they couldn't get equipment. So they were appreciative, and they're really on the forefront of electric buses at a rural transit level. And other transit agencies are coming to them and asking them what's their experience been. So we can appreciate that we have another agency in our county that's doing some really leading stuff. And I have an EDC board meeting Thursday, and I'll stop there. And I thought the meetings we had over the weekend were extremely productive. I think people can just know that the board took it very seriously. We had a great slate of candidates, and right now we're basically, I think we're in the due diligence process. And when we have some news, we'll share it. So that's all I have to say. That's my report. So where are we at? Let me get back to the agenda. Consent. So do we have any changes to the consent agenda? Staff or commissioners? None?
Motion to accept the consent agenda as submitted.
Second.
All in favor of approving the consent agenda, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Aye. Consent agenda is approved. Old business, we have none. New business. Substation regulators.
So, and this was the last minute thing, PUD.
And Leo, I'll try and give you a call. Okay.
As you remember, we requested to go out to bid. These are the results. We had really 3 regulators that we looked at. The Toshiba regulator were by far the cheapest, but they were foreign manufacturer and they're not RUS approved. So we did not purchase or choose to go with them.
And I just have a question on that. Don't they know that they're not going to be, or are they being used by other utilities that aren't RUS borrowers?
There are a couple PUDs that are testing to see if they would work. And they threw the bid out hoping we would take them. Prior to this, though, we had told them, because they're made in Brazil, that we would not accept the bid. They went ahead and gave us a bid.
Okay.
Howard Industries, they are American made or made in America. But the PUD has had a very tough time with the Howard regulators we bought in the past.
Mm-hmm.
We have had to replace one of them 3 times. And it's if you take one out of service, you ship it off, they have it for 6 months, they ship it back, we have our spare in service, we have to move them around. So because of our issues with the past Howard regulators, it was decided not to go with them. The Genpack, the Siemens regulators, we've used those in the past. We've been very pleased. But it's $583,000, which is a little over $100,000 more than last time. So,
Well, it's not double, but it's 50%
and, you know,
increase.
everything is just enough higher. Our costs are really going up. So ICPE and staff has gotten together. We agree that we should purchase the Siemens regulators through Genpack.
Okay.
Looking for a motion to.
Okay. Commissioners have any questions on this one?
Just one, just a little more clarification on the Howard regulators. You said we replaced one 3 times or twice or whatever. Was that an anomaly? I mean, is the reason, I get, because it's a considerable difference in the bid. So I'm not saying that I don't agree with what staff's recommending. I just think we should probably elaborate a little more because it is such significant amount of whether that was an anomaly or we have other information that leads us to think that it would cost us more or put us at more risk to go with the Howard.
And I guess I would add to that. So how many of those do we have?
Yeah.
So we have 6 Howards, and I will tell you now, we spent over $100,000 in trying to get them to work on a consistent basis. So the price difference isn't there if you take our time and effort. Also, RUS has not approved Howard for RUS loans.
Okay.
Not that we couldn't ask for an exception. I'm not sure they would give it to us.
And just out of curiosity, how do they go about approving equipment, or is that a long story that we don't have time for?
They had, most manufacturers, if they're selling to the cooperative world or through the RUS loan program, go to RUS, and it takes a couple years. I believe Howard is in the process of getting certified, but they're not there yet.
Does that involve like submitting lab tests or some sort of third-party tests that your equipment is?
Years ago, it even came down to the RUS would ask other utilities what their experiences were. Like
Okay.
Recommendation.
Okay, thank you. All right, so we have a.
Yeah, again, I want to thank the general manager again. I think it helps to give a little more background to show what our due diligence was. And I think that's another example of being transparent.
Mhm.
So I move that the board approve the general manager to proceed with the purchase of the Siemens regulators.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, motion and second to approve the purchase of the Siemens regulators. All in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Thank you.
Go forward. And again, the regulators are going, did they just go all over our grid or particular place or at substations?
These will go in substations. Right now in Quilcene, for example, we have smaller ones than what the transformer capacity is. So 3 of these will go into there and 3 will go into the new substation by the mill.
Okay.
We will 6 or so months, you'll probably get a request for some more.
Okay.
And what's the lag time between purchase and delivery?
On these, I want to say the lag time was not that bad, 70 weeks, I believe.
Okay.
It sounds like a lot, but in our world.
Not Amazon.
No.
It's not pre-COVID.
Okay. Looks like then we have the HR VIBA contribution for commissioners. Is that Melanie?
Thank
Okay.
you. So just some background, in February, the PUD increased the HRA Viva contribution for non-represented employees from $50 per month to $75 per month. And in the past, when we've increased for non-rep employees, we also increased for the Board of Commissioners. which is permitted by RCW 54-12-085. And we discovered that the board was not included in that contribution.
Excuse me. I'm gonna have to stop you. Did we approve the motion?
Yeah,
Yeah, Ken,
yeah. Cammy, are you there?
Yep.
the vote?
Yes, you did.
We approve the motion. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, okay.
Thank you. Please, you were just saying that
It happens.
it was approved for non-reps, but the board hadn't extended it to the board, and the RCW allows it to be adjusted for the board also.
Yes, thank you. And we discovered the board wasn't included in that increase. So this resolution is to increase the board's HRA VIBA contribution, which would be retroactive back to February 1st.
Okay. And what is it currently for the board per month?
It's 50.
50 a month? Okay. Okay.
Increased to 75.
All right. Do we have any questions by the commissioners?
So that was the only question I was going to ask, and Melanie answered it to start off there.
Okay. Do we have any questions by the public? Seeing none. And again, the overall effect is about $2,700 of additional costs. I appreciate the help on it.
Yeah.
It's always surprising how much stuff is not covered by insurance. So,
So I move that the board approve the resolution that brings into alignment the HRA Viva contribution for the commissioners with that of the non-represented employees.
I'll second.
okay, motion and a second to correlate the VIBA contributions for commissioners and non-represented employees. All in favor of the motion, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Aye. All right. We're done.
I would like to take 1 minute.
Yeah.
If I could. I've been going to board meetings since November 2012. And to my knowledge, it's the first time I don't see Don McDaniel either here in person or up on the screen.
He's missed.
We talked about the dinner we did for him, but I'm just pointing out, it's been a long time since he hasn't been to a meeting, and
Yeah.
I do miss him.
So I was at what is it called now? It's one of those wireless carriers. It used to be Safeco Field for the Mariners, and it's whatever T-Mobile Stadium. And they've got the bronze statue of Dave Niehaus there. And I had somebody take. It's almost like we need a bronze statue of Don, because he's been that important
Yeah.
to us.
He's been an invaluable resource.
Not that we want to spend customer ratepayer money on a bronze statue, but it's that thought, he's that important.
Yeah, and not just for the commissioner, the general manager, for the entire utility. He was a resource that everybody was able to access. So the training wheels are off now, folks.
Yeah, it was a huge lift, and he was a big part of it.
Maybe the appropriate thing to do is have a plaque in the lobby area.
Mm-hmm. Little bit of info about Don, and a Don approved photo when he's looking how he wants to look, the memoriam. But yeah, he really appreciated it. I talked to him afterwards, and he had a really nice time at the dinner. So,
Well, yeah, I can recall back when I was on the assistant advisory board. I mean, that unto itself was a small feat to be able to ride herd on that. So,
yeah. Interesting times. Okay, so we've completed our business, and I appreciate staff keeping the meeting short, because we're all pretty gassed from this weekend. We didn't leave anything on the field, and it was worth it. So it is 4:43, and the meeting is now adjourned. Thanks, everybody.
thanks, everybody.
Thanks, commissioners.
Bye,
Ready?
everyone.
Hey, Joel?